Resident Evil Village dropped this last week, and man, I was excited just to be able to play a big AAA game that wasn't delayed. That for me was already reason enough to be excited for Resident Evil Village, but I love the franchise altogether. I just finished it this morning. I played a little bit of the Mercenaries mode, and that itself is pretty freaking fun too. And I was thinking to myself, man, is this a top 3 Resident Evil game? And that's what I'm here to talk about. If you're not subscribed, make sure to do so. Link in the description. Twitter, Discord, links also in the description. Feel free to join our wonderful little community here. And shout out to all the regulars and members. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I streamed a little bit of Resident Evil Village the other day. I didn't stream the entirety of the game or anything like that, but scaring other people while playing a game is always a little bit of an extra fun factor for me. And I know I said something kind of crazy. A top 3 Resident Evil game? Gabe, you're crazy. This game just came out. How do you know if it kind of stands the test of time? What are your other favorite Resident Evil games that you can even put this up there? Well, let me answer that. Okay, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil game ever. I love Resident Evil 4. Okay, give me a chance here. Resident Evil 2 Remake is really good. Resident Evil 3 Remake, not as good, but still really good. For me, Resident Evil 7 was my other favorite Resident Evil game. For me, they did something so different and they turned the series on its head with Resident Evil 7, and that alone gives it extra points for me, and I just think it's a really good game. It's a creepy game, it's a very atmospheric game, and you can kind of just get lost in it. So those are my 2. Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake was the other one. Does Resident Evil Village overtake that? I want to start off by saying that I love the story that they have with Ethan Winters. It wraps up pretty nicely here in Resident Evil Village. There won't be any spoilers or anything like that, don't worry. Although there is a clear path forward, we clearly see where the series is going to go next. It seems like this is a trilogy. We had that rumor that Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9 were all going to be like a trilogy, and Village, which is Resident Evil 8, wraps things up quite nicely, actually, but it also shows you, hey, like this is next, and it's really, really exciting. And I'm honestly just gonna spoil the video right now. Yes, Resident Evil Village is a top 3 Resident Evil game of all time. To me, of course, it's just my personal opinion. It's my channel. I get to say what I want, and you get to listen if you want. Or go away and not listen, although I encourage you to hear me out anyways. I love Ethan Winters. He's such a good character, and the fact that this went first person and we don't know what Ethan really looks like, and I'm still able to identify with him and have that connection with the character says a lot, because we have the connection to Leon and Chris and any number of other Resident Evil characters because we know what they look like. With Ethan, that's not the case. Village takes place around 3 years after the events that happened in the Baker house with Resident Evil 7, and you're very quickly thrown into a world that is way crazier than what we saw in 7. We know there's lichens, we know there are giant vampire ladies that may or may not be super attractive to a lot of people on the internet, and a lot more that I won't spoil here, but for me, Village reminds me so much of my favorite Resident Evil ever, which is Resident Evil 4. Now, I'm not saying the games are the same in any way, because they're definitely not. Village does lean a little bit more action heavy the way that 4 did. Not quite as action heavy as 5 and, you know, some of 6, but definitely more action than we saw in Resident Evil 7. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I kind of like the action in the Resident Evil games. So if you can imagine what Resident Evil 7 is, and then just introduce a lot more enemies, a lot more guns, and a lot more big action set pieces, that's what you get with Village. They have done it this time. They have struck the perfect mixture, at least in my opinion, of a lot of still survival horror elements and some good action in there too. And sometimes I worry, like, hey, am I being a prisoner of the moment? Am I liking Village so much just because it is the newest game available, just because it's the prettiest game available, played it on PS5 with ray tracing 4K? It's a very gorgeous game. But I truly think that 5-6 years from now, Village will still hold up as one of the most fun experiences in the franchise. If the survival horror elements where you're in a corridor and your movement is limited is more your thing, maybe Village won't be your favorite Resident Evil game, although I still think that you'll enjoy it quite a bit because the game is just frankly that good. It never quite reaches the same heights that Resident Evil 4 does. There are still some really memorable parts to Village. We've seen one of them over and over, and she has become a meme on the internet. Lady Dimitrescu, I hope her name is so difficult to pronounce for me, but her all of the gaming fandom has been thirsting over her for the entire lead up to this game. We have a number of different areas. You've seen the village, you've seen the castle, but there are other ones that I won't get into specifically because of spoilers. The game just came out, so I'm trying not to spoil stuff so much, but all of that stuff is very, very memorable. One thing that I will say that I kind of didn't like was that there are almost no puzzles. They've completely done away with the puzzle elements in Resident Evil for me. Even Resident Evil 7 had way more puzzles than Village, and that's kind of sad. But the combination of Ethan's story and me liking where the series is going story-wise, the combat being more my speed, which is a little quicker. I don't get scared in general anyways, so all the super slow stuff that is supposed to amp up the tension and lead to scares, it doesn't work on me anyways, just because I don't get scared at games anymore. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. Couple that with some really cool callbacks to past Resident Evil games and a clear path going forward that I'm excited about. Yes, for me, Resident Evil Village is a top 3 Resident Evil game of all time. Now, I don't think it's a perfect game. I wouldn't rate it a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. For me, this is like a super solid like 8.5, but I adored playing it. I also love that it's not like crazy long. Resident Evil games generally aren't very long. They are always on the shorter side. I finished this one in just under 10 hours, and I did a lot of side stuff. I found as many of the like treasures that I possibly could, and it still just took me about 10 hours. I will say this one is a little bit easier than past Resident Evil games, so if that matters to you, start off on a higher difficulty automatically. You can get to play casual, standard, which is normal, and there's one more which I don't remember the name of, but I encourage you, if you are a veteran to the Resident Evil series, play on that like last difficulty, the hardest difficulty available from the get-go. Do it, you'll thank me later. And my favorite part about Village, what it does the best, is that yes, 7 turned the series on its head, right? First person, we had never seen that. This does it again with the introduction of Lycan and other enemies. We see a lot of enemy variety here. In 7, we only saw like 1 or 2 enemy types or variations of the same enemy type. That got a little bit stale. Here, man, Lycans move very quickly and you're gonna miss a lot. You're gonna dump some of your usually rare ammo, but in this game there's a ton of ammo all over the place. And the different enemy behavior and the different enemy types led to the game feeling fresh as you continued, because once you master being able to take down a certain enemy very efficiently, they'll throw something else at you, and then even if it is the same enemy type, they'll end up giving it like a weapon or a metal on its head so you can't do headshots. So they do mix it up. And I can't just finish the video without shouting out the Duke. The Duke in this game is awesome. He cooks for you to get your permanent upgrades, although you have to destroy a lot of livestock and animals to do so. I always felt bad killing the animals, even though it didn't seem like it on stream. I did feel bad. Upgrades for your weapons. You get to sell your weapons because there is no storage this time. You have to buy them back. So if you get a pistol that you think is better that you want to use instead, sell your previous pistol. If at any time you regret that, buy it right back with all the attachments that were already there. He also handles the weapon upgrades and everything else. He's a very cool character. I love him. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Resident Evil Village is one of the best Resident Evil games of all time? If not, let me know. I believe right now it's sitting like at an 84 on Metacritic, and that's a really good score for me for this game. Now, more traditional fans will just absolutely not agree with me. Maybe this just won't be for you the way it's for me, but I love Resident Evil 4 so much. And I wouldn't say that this is a ton similar, but a lot of the same vibes and some of the same core elements are in there. I can see the DNA of Resident Evil 4 in Village, and I'm happy if they continue down this path. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Special thank you to members. You know who we are because your name is on the screen now. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for supporting the channel. A bunch more videos this week. I was waiting for the camera equipment to get here. Hopefully this doesn't look too bad. I don't usually film with autofocus, but I filmed this with autofocus. All right, I'm gonna get out of here because I just rambled. Thank you once again. Adios.